I just bought myself a freaking ton of Solana. And the main reason being, I think Solana is going to absolutely pop off over the next few months. I personally see Sol reaching $1,000 plus this season, and thus, well, I'm putting my money where my mouth is. Here, I also just deposited a couple hundred Solana. I put 500 Sol into Payonix. Why? Well, it's a platform that automatically trades crypto. I've talked about it 1,000 times before. And the idea basically here being that, well, if I, for example, have 100 Sol left, right? I could just basically leverage it out a little bit to act as if it's more. In this case here, act as if it's 500 Solana, with the effective leverage, the actual leverage, being only here 2.3x or so. If I open this up, let's give it a little second. Here now, what I've essentially done is I've generated myself a bot that buys Solana as the price goes down lower and essentially sells it again if the price goes higher, hopefully generating me more and more Sol over time. Now, it's similar to a bot I already opened up a while back. If you take a look at my little stack right here, my coin stack, a while back, like 2 months ago, I opened a Sol bot with only 6.5 Sol. It's up almost 3 Solana right now, and it made me realize, if I got Sol laying around anyway, this is what I need to be doing. But also on the side, I'm basically stacking, I didn't actually do it yet here. I was going to say, I'm basically stacking all these different various coins. And I also wanted to open up a nice Solana bot here with normal dollars. The difference being the dollar bot. Let's quickly try to scroll to my main Solana bot. I must have one running here, right? Okay, so we have one with a couple $1,000s in it. This, you can see, just 4 months ago, I put $3,000 in. It's already up $3,000 as Solana's price went from 180 to 223, but also had a lot of volatility in the midst and made a lot of transactions in the process, about 240 a day. I thought I had one more Sol bot here. Let's quickly scroll through and find it. Yeah, so I guess it turns out my Sol bots here really weren't that crazy just quite yet. So the majority of my goodness is going to be coming from the Sol coin margin bots, unless I open up more here, which I will. So the idea here basically, like I said before, being this is one I could keep open for a very long time. The bottom of the range was $48. I can significantly increase that by now, but that's because the time I opened it up, the market really wasn't doing that well. And so we were quite unsure as to what was going to happen. I wanted to keep, you can see right here at $150, I wanted to keep it open with, 1/3 the price and more than double the price. Just a very long-term type of bot, a very long-term type of idea. But as the market has now progressed, well, I've been adding to my Solana longs on every single platform. I've just been buying more and more. I mean, my Sol long here over on Bybit is not that great, but the profit has been pretty interesting. So it's only a $35,000 Solana long, but we're up $13,000 and a bit on it. So that's pretty good. But anyway, as it currently stands, Solana has been basically an uptrend ever since April. It's hard to spot it when you're really zooming in, but slowly but surely, Sol has just been making higher lows and higher highs. Today, again, marking a pretty crazy spark. As you can see right now, we are at 224, but really, when you start looking at the historical prices, we're basically within like the last stretch, right? Sure, the all-time high is a little bit more upwards, but for the most part, there's really nothing in the way here anymore for Solana to get to those great spots. We really are back in what I almost call price discovery territory. Not just quite yet, of course, but the amount of time we spent above the current prices has been minimal, as the threshold to reach this was basically 213, which we just broke out of yesterday. And sure, like I said before, there are a few interesting resistances to watch out for, but I don't think these are going to be too pivotal. The only thing that's in my mind is that this mark, the top mark here, was set because of Donald Trump and him launching a meme coin. What could be greater than that? But I still think that a proper altcoin season, a proper move right here, could result in some significant gains here because, well, it's just what sparks the whole new move. Now, I've just been watching the Sol here that I put in. Obviously, it's not using the full leverage just quite yet. It's not using the full 500 that we allocated to it, but I think that's quite fine. It's going to be buying more as the price goes closer towards the 180 mark. And if you, by the way, want to join any of these strategies, some links are down below. Payonix is the platform I'm using to trade this with, so you can see it with the link right there, the first link down below. And there's also a second link with which you can claim yourself some nice bonus. Where will I be selling Solana is one of the better questions. Now, again, because of my dual setup here, this, the Solana let me quickly try to find it here. Which one of these was it? This, I won't really have to sell, as the whole idea is just generating me more and more Sol, hopefully throughout the worst markets as well. And as it's generating me more and more Sol, hopefully the dollar value also increases. So even if it doesn't, right? Even if the dollar value doesn't increase because the market's moving down, at least I'm stacking more and more coins automatically through the bot method. But for the most part, I'm basically thinking if I level it out properly, where I have one bot generating me a lot of Solana and the other generating me more dollars, well, I theoretically speaking keep the dollar bot open, the Solana bot open forever, generating me more SOL, and just close the dollar bot at a certain value where I'm satisfied with SOL. But the really interesting discussion only comes when SOL has reached a price above $500, probably inching closer towards 600. I'm not really thinking of selling or a selling strategy or selling plan. It's primarily going to be based on Bitcoin, which, well, Bitcoin hasn't really made a crazy move yet, right? I still expect the altcoin season can't fully start unless Bitcoin makes a 20 or 30% move, or perhaps Ethereum making one of those moves. The moment that Ethereum sets a 20-30% daily candle, I think a lot of alts will start gaining from there. And at that point, we got to start thinking more about where to exit rather than where to enter. Right now, for the most part, it's just fee season, just buying myself more and more positions, while of course staying quite safe. You know, I'm making sure I also don't completely over leverage myself. As you can see right here, I just also bought myself a new, very, very interesting 40,000 XRP bot, which again is ×5. So theoretically speaking, this is a $610,000 XRP bot I just opened up. And well, the total value of my account here is starting to run up pretty quickly. I said before, I want to make sure I get at least $2 million worth of bots, you know, before leverage. And right now, I think we're sitting at roughly $550,000, maybe $600,000 or so. So we still got to stack at least about 3 times more. But you got to understand that at full leverage, which is on average ×5 here, that would still be $10 million after leverage. And right now at 5x roughly, it's still, I'm going to say roughly $2.5 million or so that we are long right now on all these coins here over on Payonics. It's still a pretty good stash of coins. And again, as I said before, I'm also prepared for the market coming down, which is why relative to what I've got on the account, you know, it's only, for example, a 100 Solana long here, only 20,000 ×5, so about $100,000 worth, even though like you saw, I still have about like 500-ish SOL left to potentially insert. Now, why am I not going too crazy? Because I've been here before, all right? I've been in this position before where the market all of a sudden has a sharp downturn, and I do not want to be left in a position where I'm going to stress out. I prefer to just take my crazy percentage, perhaps, you know, 50% or so yield on perhaps only 20% of the port. Why? Well, think about it. If LST were to generate me about 8%, which is a liquid staking token for Solana, or some, you know, 𝗬𝗏 SOL or 𝗬𝗏 would generate me, let's say, between 6 and 8% a year, something along those lines. You know, there's always risk with those positions as well. Staking always has risk inherently as well. But I'm thinking, even if I, you know, use only 1/5 of the balance here in this type of bot, still what the grid profits is generating right now, it's at 250% for the year. This will obviously go down a little bit if the volatility drops, but the idea still stands. I still think it will significantly be more than, let's say, 50%. I think it will be probably closer towards 100%, let's say a year. And since the amount is in Solana, if we're generating 100% or so in actual SOL, not just in dollars, that's actually pretty huge, right? Even if it drops closer towards like 50%, since it's in SOL, you know, that's a pretty good increase to get. Because theoretically speaking, if Solana's price also increases, we've got the yield over in SOL and the yield over in dollars. So that could be nice. Like, for example, if the Solana price increases by 10% over the year, which I think it will do way crazy numbers. Let's say it increases by 500% over the year, right? Or it just goes from $200 to $1,000. So we go ×4. If we also at the same time doubled our Solana because of these strategies, we go from 100 to 200 SOL, let's just say. But then because of the strategies here and because of the trading it's doing, it's probably going to be above that. So let's say it's at 250 SOL. By that point, if we've got the 250 that this has become, and it's 1,000 now we've turned the little bit, you know, the $20,000 that we put in, but at that point be worth $250,000. So that would be pretty good, right? If you start thinking about it from that angle as to what this could do over a year, if we were to, you know, generate about 100% or so, which is pretty high. I'm just giving an example. And actually also generate some trend P&L, because of course if the price moves up, I think this will be way above 250 SOL then though, if we were to go to 1,000, because looking back at it, if I go back to my CoinBot stack, if I look at this SOL position, the fact that this right now annualizes 312% from 188 to 224 means that if we were to go to like 1,000, this percentage would be so absolutely wild that the 6.5 SOL would probably be like 40 or something SOL. turning our, and again by that logic, turning our $1,100 or $1,200 to like what, like if we go to 1,000, like 40K or something like that. So that is really kind of the trades I'm looking for. If you look back on my Bybit, I've shown you this multiple times, but I'm going to quickly go back and show you again. Remember, the main thing I really want is for some of these smaller positions to just be held throughout some of the worst times and stack into crazy opportunities. For example, this XRP trade, I put, as you can see right here, about 1,300 in, acting as 13,000, and it's up $60,000. Those are the type of trades I love the most. You know, these newer trades I'm putting in, for example, here we opened a 40K XP trade. These are cool and all, but realistically, what makes me most excited is the trades where you put a small amount in and it just goes crazy multipliers. But of course, it will be way more fun if this happens on an even bigger size. But yeah. I always say the size doesn't really matter. It's the percentage, which is why, let me quickly go back to the competition right here. Why for the competition we've got going on Pionex right now as well. It's a P&L based thing. You know, it basically starts at $100 the competition, as you can see right here. Just open a bot with at least $100 worth, and you can win yourself $1,000 or different prices right here, up to minimum $100. And it's not about how much money you make. It's about the percentage and how good you do. Like I said, it's a friendly competition. The goal is just to get people to try it out and hopefully generate some good strategies that can last them throughout time. Remember though, it's not about the amount of dollars you make. I personally think it's always a percentage-based game, which by which logic I mean, don't overdo it. There's no need to go crazy on the leverage, you know, by increasing it by such a fold where you're always stressed out. I think it's just whatever yield you're able to generate, I personally think is going to be worth it in comparison to basically getting zero on it, which is why relatively here, like I told you, I maybe didn't add the craziest amount of SOL, right? You might think. But to me, it's an amount where I'm really happy with because it's grinding out more Solana. And since I think Solana is going to go to 1,000 anyway, I just want as many strategies as possible generating me more SOL. Because I really think it's quite cheap still. Right now, basically for the amount of hype there is for Solana as a chain, still the amount of utility it has for all these meme coins, etc., only trading at 224, where Ethereum is basically a little bit above I mean, right now it's slightly below, but basically trading way more towards all-time high. I guess really when you start breaking it down like that, Solana really hasn't even seen a crazy run yet this part of the cycle. Yes, we saw it when Trump launched his coin, but pretty quickly afterwards, it went down like 70%, which does spark another question. You know, should you always mentally be prepared for a 70% downturn? It is a good question. Here, Solana moving all the way towards below $100 did wreck a lot of people. It's what people right now are afraid of. They kind of have this PTSD, and I kind of say it like this. The probability of having another move like this is quite small this far into the run. I still think things like World Liberty Finance and the regulations coming in right now made it a bit more difficult for the market to have such a downturn because of the massive institutions buying SOL as treasury. If you don't remember, right now, there's a pretty big thing going on where there's more and more companies raising billions of dollars to buy Solana. Since we have that as a backing, this is what Pentoshi and what a lot of other very infamous traders have noted throughout the past couple of weeks here. What we're basically essentially doing is we're looking at these massive companies. They are putting all their efforts into, I'm just trying to quickly find the post right here. We're looking at all their efforts of them raising all this capital to try and buy, here we go, all right, of trying to buy SOL. Pentoshi said, more to be announced soon for Solana. Just spot, meaning you don't over leverage it, but hey, I personally do, and chill and let the TCOs, the treasury companies, do their thing for the time being. The market hasn't been complicated lately. Just buy the things with the flows. What is he talking about? Well, the fact that there's multiple companies raising billions of dollars to buy SOL coming into the market. All we had to do thus far is just follow the money. If they're buying that, they're buying SOL, all we got to do is just follow along and buy that before they do or as they do. Why? First of all, because they're a better analyst than we are. They've got better analysts than we have. And because if they're raising billions to do it, sure, they can always risk it for the biscuit and they're not always going to be right. But by that logic, if they're going for it with all this borrowed money, with the liquidation price as well, because there's always a risk when it comes to borrowing money, why don't we go for it as well? Risk is there. It's not a zero risk, right? But is it not worth it? And that's what I keep saying. That's why I keep going for it. That's why I keep stacking this up. Also, from my personal angle, I think many of these companies will do everything within their power. I see my camera is just overheated. But they will do everything in their power to keep these things successful. They would literally liquidate probably everything else that they could, because when you start breaking it down, the yields they can generate on this per year, because of the way crypto is right now, is so great. It will probably out-trump anything else they've got. Could easily see the treasury companies bringing in 50 to 100 mil a year off of very high margin revenue for Galaxy. Just this one deal alone could generate them 30 mil a year, and similar companies, probably similar sort of results based on the fees that they've got. They're not going to let their golden goose go to zero. At least it doesn't make sense. Of course, there's still the possibility of another government or something like that shorting the frick out of us. But I still stand by the point that it makes too much sense to go with the flow, buy the freaking dips like maniacs here, and go with these companies rather than going against them. And so when it comes to Solana, that is exactly what I'm doing right here. Of course, as I said before, I'm being a bit careful. You know, I'm not going too crazy on the pumps here. I'm not going too crazy with the leverage, but I am buying. Of course I'm buying because I think this market is going to absolutely pop up over the next few months. And you know what? That's about it. I still see Sol trading above $1,000. Might give it a few months to get there though, but that's about it. And like I said earlier also, it may look as if it's doing really, really bad for the time being. Most of the bots I open at the start do really, really bad for a while. That's first of all because not every single time you buy into it, you know, the market goes up instantly. But again, we only bought in with about 20,000 times 5, only $100,000 worth. It's not too crazy. We can add significantly more if the market moves down by a whole bunch. But more importantly, we're keeping ourselves in a comfy position. I'm not going too nuts just quite yet because I know what also is on the opposite side of the market, you know. And like I said, that's about it for this little crypto update. Yeah, trades are looking good. It's looking juicy. Proper stack. We're ready for the bull market. And things are about to get crazy from here, I feel.